Aspiring content creators chase viral fame through increasingly dangerous stunts, never imagining that their pursuit of internet stardom could become their final performance. We often look at our screens and see influencers as invincible, protected by a digital barrier and the promise of likes. But the algorithm is a cold master, and the camera is a neutral witness. In this video, we are examining 10 disturbing cases of creators who died while filming. These aren't just accidents, they are psychological case studies on the thin line between a viral moment and a fatal mistake. From seasoned professionals to desperate amateurs, you'll question exactly what people are willing to risk for a few moments of attention. It began with a man who had made a career out of being the smartest person in the room. Grant Thompson spent a decade teaching 12 million people how to survive the impossible. From forging swords out of soda cans to surviving in the wild with nothing but a gum wrapper, he was the king of random, the internet's favorite scientist. But in July 2019, the man who had mastered the laws of physics in his backyard faced an atmospheric variable that no amount of DIY expertise could fix. This is the story of how a pioneer of the educational genre filmed his own final moments, leaving behind a digital archive that continues to teach millions, long after its creator fell silent. By 2019, Grant Thompson had built an empire on curiosity. His channel wasn't just entertainment, it was a laboratory. He was known for a meticulous, safety-first approach to even his most dangerous stunts. After years of high-octane content, Grant had semi-retired from the daily grind of the channel, finally finding time to pursue his personal passion, paramotoring and paragliding. In the eyes of his audience, Grant was invincible, a man who understood the mechanics of the world too well to be claimed by it. But paragliding, unlike a controlled chemistry experiment, relies on the invisible and the unpredictable. On the evening of July 29th, Grant headed to Sand Hollow State Park in Utah. He was an experienced pilot, equipped with top-tier gear and, as always, a GoPro to document the flight. To those on the ground, the conditions seemed ideal, clear skies and a gentle breeze. But paragliding pilots know a hidden danger, the thermal. These are columns of rising air created by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface. In the desert heat of Utah, these thermals can become violent, invisible pillars of force. Despite his experience, Grant was entering an arena where the rules of physics change in a heartbeat. The footage recovered from Grant's helmet-mounted camera tells a technical and terrifying story. As Grant soared above the red cliffs, he hit a sudden, massive updraft, a dust devil, or a powerful thermal. The camera captures the moment the physics he spent his life teaching turned against him. The surge of air caused his parachute canopy to suffer a frontal collapse. In a split second, the wing that was keeping him aloft became a useless sheet of fabric. Grant, ever the problem solver, can be seen in the footage attempting to execute emergency procedures to re-inflate the wing. But he was too low. The altitude that had provided him such a beautiful view had now become a trap with no room for recovery. When Grant didn't return, a massive search and rescue operation was launched, using GPS pings from his phone to track him to a remote ledge. He was 38 years old. The footage was confiscated by the Washington County Sheriff's Office, not for a criminal investigation, but to provide a technical autopsy for the paragliding community. It was a final, unintentional how-to video, a lesson in the raw, unforgiving power of nature. The King of Random channel didn't die with him, it remains a massive digital library. Every day, thousands of people still watch Grant's voice explain how the world works, unaware that the teacher has long since left the classroom. Grant Thompson's life was defined by the pursuit of knowledge. His death serves as a haunting reminder, in the world of content creation, the camera doesn't just capture our triumphs, it stands witness to our mortality. While some creators lose their lives chasing adrenaline in the far corners of the earth, others meet their end in the most quiet, familiar settings imaginable. This second case highlights a chilling contrast. You don't have to be hanging off a skyscraper or jumping from a plane for the camera to capture your final exit. Sometimes, the most disturbing footage isn't a violent crash, but the sudden, silent transition from a living conversation to an empty room, Simon, known to his dedicated community as SayGoodnightKevin, wasn't an action star. He was a movie reviewer, a man whose stunts consisted of sitting in a comfortable chair, lit by soft studio lights, dissecting cinema with a wit that made his thousands of subscribers feel like they were sitting right there with him. He had built a digital home based on connection, a place where the stakes were usually no higher than the quality of a film's screenplay. But in early 2024, the intimate space he had created for his audience became the site of a tragedy that no one, least of all Simon, saw coming. The day began like any other filming session. Simon set up his tripod, checked his audio levels, and pressed the red record button. For a creator like Simon, this was his sanctuary, a place where he felt most like himself. He was in the middle of a take, mid-sentence, doing exactly what he had done for years, talking to a lens as if it were a lifelong friend. In an instant, the tone of the room shifted. Without the warning of a crashing parachute or a wild haymaker, Simon suffered a catastrophic medical emergency. Reports would later indicate it was heart-related, a silent, internal failure that struck while the recording was still rolling. There was no spectacle, no dramatic build-up. Only the sudden, heavy silence of a room where the narrator has vanished while the equipment continues to run. The footage from that afternoon was never meant for public consumption, but its existence serves as a haunting artifact. It captured the exact moment a vibrant, intellectual presence was extinguished in the middle of a creative act. When the news finally reached his community through his family, it hit with a unique kind of grief. Unlike the reckless stunts that often draw criticism, Simon's passing felt like a personal loss to a neighborhood. His family noted that he died doing what he loved, but for those who study this death on camera phenomenon, it remains a grounding, sobering realization. Most creators treat the camera as a bridge to a future audience, a way to live forever in the digital cloud. But Simon's final video serves as a reminder that the camera is also a clock. It tracks time that we assume we have in abundance. His lens didn't capture a quest for fame gone wrong, it captured a life of purpose that simply ran out of time while the shutters were open. As we move from the quiet studio of a movie reviewer back to the high-stakes world of physical endurance, the pattern remains the same. Whether it's a quiet heart failure or a high-speed impact, the camera does not blink. It continues to record long after the person behind the persona has said their final word. While the passing of a quiet creator like Simon feels like a somber closing of a book, our third case represents a violent explosion of a life and a legacy spiraling out of control. It serves as a grim reminder that for some, the digital world isn't just a hobby, it's a reality so fragile that when it shatters, the physical world often goes down with it. Trevor Heitman, known to nearly 1 million subscribers as McSkillet, was a titan in the world of Counter-Strike. At just 18 years old, he had achieved the kind of wealth most adults only dream of, built entirely on the trade of high-value digital skins. He was the king of a virtual economy, a teenager who had turned pixels into a fortune. To his fans, he was a success story, a young man who had figured out the ultimate cheat code to life. But in the high-stakes world of digital assets, the floor can drop out in a single afternoon. In early 2018, Valve, the developer of Counter-Strike, issued a trade ban on Heitman's account. In an instant, his access to hundreds of thousands of dollars in digital inventory was frozen. His livelihood, his status, and his identity were wiped clean by an algorithm. As his digital empire crumbled, those close to him noticed a rapid shift. The confident creator who once flaunted his success began to withdraw into a dark, volatile mental state. The haunting prelude to what happened next was a video Trevor had uploaded months earlier titled, "My New McLaren 650S." In it, he proudly showcases the $200,000 supercar, a physical trophy of his online dominance. At the time, it was a celebration of making it. Today, that footage serves as a chilling foreshadowing of the weapon that would eventually take his life, and the lives of others. On the afternoon of August 23, 2018, the McLaren was no longer a trophy, it was a projectile. In what investigators believe was a final, desperate act of a spiraling mind, Trevor drove the car through a fence and onto the I-5 highway in San Diego, directly into oncoming traffic. He pushed the car to speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour, heading the wrong way toward an inevitable conclusion. The footage of the event didn't come from a vlogging camera, but from the unblinking eyes of highway surveillance and witness dashcams. The images are chaotic, a streak of black carbon fiber weaving through traffic at impossible speeds before the final, catastrophic impact. Trevor slammed head-on into an SUV carrying a 43-year-old mother and her 12-year-old daughter. The resulting fireball was so intense it could be seen for miles. There were no likes to be gained here, no engagement metrics to track. Only the charred remains of a dream that had turned into a nightmare. The McSkillet channel, once a place of excitement and digital wealth, became a digital graveyard overnight. The tragedy of Trevor Heitman is a downfall narrative in its purest, most destructive form. It shows the danger of tethering one's entire self-worth to a digital platform that can be taken away with the click of a button. When the virtual world he had mastered rejected him, Trevor took his frustration out on the physical world, proving that the consequences of online drama can have devastating, permanent offline costs. As we look at the wreckage of $1 million career and 3 lost lives, we have to ask, at what point does the pressure of maintaining an online persona become too much for the human mind to bear? While some creators are driven to the edge by the collapse of a digital empire, others find themselves standing on a literal edge, chasing the perfect shot. Our fourth case takes us from the high-speed chaos of a California highway to the silent, breathtaking peaks of the Italian Alps, a place where the pursuit of beauty and the demands of the camera converged in a single, fatal slip. Albert Derland was more than just a YouTuber, he was a Danish superstar. A musician, filmmaker, and comedian, he had mastered the art of being on at all times. His content was characterized by an infectious, high-energy charm that made him a household name in Denmark. For Albert, the world was a stage, and his life was a series of vibrant sets designed to entertain his hundreds of thousands of followers. In the summer of 2021, that stage was Mount Sekida, one of the most picturesque locations on the planet. Mount Sekida is famous for its jagged, slanted peaks and dramatic drop-offs, a bucket list location for any creator looking to capture the epic scale of nature. For someone like Albert, whose brand was built on being larger than life, the Alps provided the perfect backdrop for his next viral clip. But the danger of these locations is often masked by their beauty. On a mountain trail, the difference between a breathtaking panoramic shot and a 600-foot plunge is often a matter of inches. On July 28th, Albert was in the middle of filming. He wasn't just walking, he was creating. When you are viewing the world through a lens or a screen, your brain often prioritizes that frame over the terrain. You stop seeing the ground as a precarious edge and start seeing it as a vantage point. As Albert moved to capture a specific angle for his video, the fundamental laws of gravity, the ones he had spent a career trying to defy through his creative energy, asserted themselves. He slipped. In an instant, the recording session was over. Albert fell approximately 650 feet from the mountain. There was no backup, no safety net, and no take two. The Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs and his family would later confirm the tragedy. The 22-year-old creator had died instantly. The footage from that day remains a private, painful testament to the accident. Unlike the premeditated stunts of thrill seekers, Albert's death felt like a glitch in a vibrant life. He wasn't trying to die, he was trying to live out loud for his audience. But the mountain is indifferent to fame. It doesn't care how many subscribers are waiting for the upload or how much talent the person on the trail possesses. Albert's passing sent shockwaves through Denmark, sparking a national conversation about the lengths to which young creators go to feed the content machine. His story highlights a specific, modern danger, that's cinematic blindness. It's the moment a creator becomes so focused on the world inside the viewfinder that they lose their connection to the physical world beneath their feet. In the wake of his death, the images of Albert standing on the peaks of the Alps took on a haunting quality. they transitioned from travel inspiration to a cautionary tale. They serve as a reminder that the camera doesn't just document our lives, it can often distract us from the very reality we need to survive. As we move from the silent peaks of Italy to our next case, the theme of the unfiltered lens continues. Because as we are about to see, sometimes the camera isn't just a witness to an accident, it is the very reason the danger was sought out in the first place. While the height of a mountain or the speed of a supercar are obvious threats, our fifth case proves that danger doesn't always come from the extraordinary. Sometimes, it resides in the mundane, in the very act of eating. This story takes us to Japan, where a creator's attempt to turn a simple meal into a high-stakes challenge which resulted in one of the most harrowing live broadcasts in the history of the platform. The YouTuber known as Solo was a veteran of this live streaming era, a format where the barrier between creator and audience is completely removed. In a live environment, there is no editing, no safety of a post-production suite. Everything is raw, immediate, and permanent. Solo had built her community on this intimacy, often filming long sessions of her daily life. But in April 2019, she decided to up the stakes by participating in a trend that has plagued the internet for years, the extreme eating challenge. The task was deceptively simple. She attempted to swallow a massive onigiri, a traditional Japanese rice ball, in one single mouthful. To the casual viewer, it looked like a bit of harmless, light-hearted fun. But onigiri is made of dense, sticky glutinous rice. When compressed into a large ball and forced into the throat, it doesn't behave like food, it behaves like a physical plug. Image showing the texture and density of compressed glutinous rice. As the camera rolled and the live chat scrolled by with messages of encouragement and jokes, Sola took the challenge. Within seconds, the mood in the digital room shifted from amusement to a cold, paralyzed realization. Sola began to struggle. She wasn't laughing anymore. The rice ball had become lodged in her airway, creating a total obstruction. The footage from this event is uniquely disturbing because of its duration. Unlike a fall from a cliff which is over in seconds, Sola's struggle lasted for minutes in front of a live audience. Viewers watched as she gasped for air, her face changing color as her body's most basic survival instincts took over. Eventually, she went limp, falling back onto her tatami mats while the camera continued to broadcast her unconscious form to thousands of people across the globe. For 20 minutes, the stream stayed live. The chat was a chaotic mix of panic, confusion, and people calling for help from thousands of miles away. Because she was a solo broadcaster, there was no one in the room to perform the Heimlich maneuver or clear her airway. It was a digital locked room mystery where the audience could see the victim, but couldn't reach through the glass to save her. By the time emergency responders, alerted by frantic viewers, broke into her apartment, it was too late. She was transported to a hospital but never regained consciousness, passing away shortly after. The Solar Channel incident remains a dark landmark in the mukbang and extreme eating community. It exposed the terrifying reality of solo content, that when you are your own camera crew, director, and star, there is no one there to be your lifeguard. Sola's death was a glitch in the social media machine, a moment where the entertainment literally choked on itself. It serves as a haunting reminder that the search for a viral moment can turn a household object into a lethal weapon. The camera, which was meant to bring her closer to her fans, ultimately served as the unblinking witness to her isolation in her final moments. As we transition from the domestic silence of a Japanese apartment to our next case, we see a recurring theme, the challenge culture of the internet. Because as dangerous as a rice ball can be, some creators go even further, intentionally courting the most volatile elements of nature just to see if they can survive the shot. As we move from the silent isolation of a Japanese apartment, we find that the dangers of the digital age don't always require a planned stunt or a reckless challenge. Sometimes, the threat is integrated into the very lifestyle a creator is trying to promote. Our sixth case takes us to the busy streets of London, where a pioneer of the wellness vlog became the face of a tragedy that changed national laws. Emily Hartridge was a trailblazer in the British YouTube scene. Long before authenticity was a buzzword, Emily was living it. She was a TV presenter and a fitness icon who built her brand on being brutally honest about her life, from mental health struggles to the excitement of new technology. Her channel was a sunny, fast-paced window into the life of a woman who seemed to have figured out the modern world. In 2019, she was in the middle of a new series of vlogs, documenting her day-to-day journey with the same infectious energy that had earned her hundreds of thousands of followers. The central prop of her recent content was a gift she had received for her birthday, an electric scooter. In several videos leading up to the incident, the e-scooter was more than just a vehicle, it was a symbol of her modern, eco-friendly, and efficient lifestyle. To her audience, it was a cool new gadget. But in 2019, the legal and physical infrastructure for these devices was a chaotic grey area. Emily was riding a high-speed electric machine in a city designed for heavy steel. On the morning of July 12th, Emily was doing exactly what her fans loved her for. She was on the move, documenting her life in the heart of London. She wasn't performing a stunt for views, she was simply living the lifestyle she had maniaized. But as she approached a busy roundabout in Battersea, the vloggable convenience of the e-scooter met the cold reality of urban logistics. The collision happened in an instant. Emily was struck by a heavy goods vehicle, a massive truck that occupied a different physical reality than her lightweight scooter. While she wasn't holding a camera at the exact second of impact, the narrative of her day was already being written for her channel. She was in the process of filming her life, a process that was violently interrupted by a mechanical failure or a blind spot that no amount of fitness or positivity could overcome. The aftermath was a media firestorm. Emily became the first person in the UK to die in an e-scooter accident, transforming her from a beloved lifestyle creator into a tragic landmark case for government safety reviews. The very device she had featured so prominently on her channel was now being scrutinized by the Ministry of Transport. Her final vlog became a collection of clips that her fans revisited with a sense of profound dread, looking for signs or warnings in the background of her sunny London morning. The tragedy of Emily Hartridge is a lifestyle trap. It shows that when your content is your life, the risks of your life become the risks of your content. She wasn't a daredevil, she was a commuter. But because she had shared so much of her journey with her audience, her death felt like a localized glitch in the lives of everyone who followed her. As we look at the empty streets where Emily once rode, we see the recurring theme of this countdown. The camera doesn't just record the extraordinary, it records the vulnerability of the everyday. Whether it's a rice ball in Japan or a scooter in London, the things we use to build our brand are often the very things that can end our story. While the death of Emily Hartridge was a tragic intersection of modern lifestyle and urban safety, our seventh case takes us into a much darker territory, where the content itself is an act of aggression. It moves us from the accidental to the confrontational, highlighting a subculture of YouTube where the line between a prank and a death wish is dangerously thin. In early 2021, the streets of Nashville, Tennessee, became the setting for a social experiment that would end in a parking lot homicide. Timothy Wilkes was a 20-year-old creator who, like many in the mid-tier of the platform, was looking for a shortcut to the top. In the world of the YouTube algorithm, prank content has long been a fast track to millions of views. The formula is simple: create a moment of extreme fear or confusion in a stranger, capture their reaction, and label it entertainment. But as Timothy was about to discover, real-world reactions don't always follow a script. The prank Timothy and a friend had designed was a relic of a more reckless era of the internet. They decided to arm themselves with butcher knives and fake rob a group of strangers in the parking lot of a family trampoline park. To Timothy, this was a movie set. The knives were props, the parking lot was a stage, and the strangers were just extras in his upcoming viral hit. But to the people standing in that parking lot, there was no camera, no likes, and no context. There was only a man with a blade. As Timothy approached the group, brandishing the butcher knife for the camera, he was looking for a specific emotional reaction: shock, fear, or a frantic escape. Instead, he triggered a more primal human response. One of the individuals in the group, a 23-year-old man, didn't see a YouTuber, he saw a lethal threat to his life and the lives of his friends. Acting in what he believed was immediate self-defense, he drew a firearm and fired. The footage from that night captured the ultimate prank gone wrong. In a split second, the transition from a vlogger to victim was complete. Timothy was shot and killed while his friend's camera continued to record the aftermath of a content idea that had ignored the most basic rules of human survival. When the police arrived, they were met with a scene of total confusion, a group of people who thought they were being murdered, and a creator who died for a video that would never be uploaded. This case is a social experiment in the most tragic sense. It exposes the digital disconnect, the psychological phenomenon where creators become so detached from reality that they believe the camera acts as a shield against the consequences of their actions. Timothy believed the intent of his prank would protect him, but the world outside the lens doesn't care about intent, it only reacts to action. The shooter was ultimately not charged, with investigators determining the incident was a clear case of self-defense. The tragedy left behind a haunting question for the creator community: at what point does the pursuit of engagement cross the line into criminal negligence? Timothy Wilkes didn't die because of a mechanical failure or a natural disaster, he died because he treated the real world like a simulation where the reset button always works. As we move from the violent confrontation in a Nashville parking lot to our next case, the theme of risk versus reward continues to escalate. Because as we are about to see, some creators don't just risk their lives for a prank, they risk them for the sake of a single, perfect, and terrifying image. While the case of Timothy Wilkes was a tragedy of social miscalculation, our eighth case takes us back to the heights, but with a chillingly deliberate intent. It is perhaps the most famous example of the lethal gamble, where a creator didn't just stumble into danger, but looked it in the face every single day until it finally blinked. Wu Yongning was a man known to millions as China's first rooftopper. A former film extra and martial artist, he had found a much more lucrative, albeit terrifying, career in the clouds. His niche was simple: he would scale the tallest skyscrapers in China, often illegally, and perform heart-stopping stunts on the very edge of the abyss, all without a single safety rope or harness. To his followers, Wu was a modern-day superhero, a man who had conquered the fear of death for the sake of a perfect vertical shot. But in the world of extreme heights, there is no room for a bad day at the office. In November 2017, Wu set his sights on the Huiyuan International Center in Changsha, a massive, 62-story glass tower that pierced the city skyline. He wasn't there for the view, he was there for a specific challenge that carried a $15,000 prize, money he reportedly intended to use for his upcoming wedding and to pay for his mother's medical bills. It was a classic high-stakes narrative, a young man risking everything to provide for his family, fueled by the financial incentives of a viral-hungry digital economy. Wu had set up a fixed camera on a nearby ledge to document the feat. The footage it captured is one of the most widely discussed and debated videos in the history of the internet. It shows Wu lowering himself over the side of the roof, his hands gripping the smooth, cold edge of the building. He begins to perform pull-ups, an incredible display of upper body strength and sheer nerves. But as he attempts to pull himself back up onto the ledge for the second time, something shifts. The footage captures a struggle that feels like an eternity. Wu's feet scramble against the sheer glass face of the building, looking for a purchase that isn't there. For nearly 20 seconds, the king of rooftoppers is locked in a desperate battle with gravity. His strength, exhausted by the very stunts that made him famous, finally fails. He loses his grip and disappears from the frame, falling 62 stories to a terrace below. The aftermath of Wu's death was an international reckoning. It wasn't just a mourning of a talented athlete, it was a fierce debate over the daredevil subculture and the platforms that profit from it. Critics argued that the algorithm doesn't just reward bravery, it incentivizes suicide. The more dangerous the stunt, the higher the engagement, the more the creator feels pressured to push the limit until the limit pushes back. Wu Yongning's final video is a technical failure of the human body. It shows the moment where the invincibility myth of social media meets the biological reality of muscle fatigue. He had done this hundreds of times before, but on a skyscraper, hundreds doesn't matter. Only the one matters. As we leave the heights of Changsha and descend back to the ground, the pattern of our 10th story remains clear. The camera is a witness that never intervenes. It records the triumph and the tragedy with the same cold, high-definition clarity. And as we are about to see in our final cases, sometimes the most dangerous thing a creator can do isn't climbing a building, it's trying to prove a point to an audience that is never satisfied. While some creators lose their lives to the unforgiving physics of a mountain or the mechanical failure of a skyscraper, our 9th case brings the danger into a domestic setting with a level of scientific ignorance that is almost impossible to comprehend. It is the ultimate example of the confidence trap, a story of how a young couple's desperate search for a viral breakout led them to treat a lethal weapon like a stage prop. Pedro Ruiz and his girlfriend, Mona Lisa Perez, were a young couple from Minnesota who operated a channel called the La Mona Lisa. Their content was a mix of family vlogs, pranks, and light-hearted stunts. But by 2017, the pressure of the YouTube algorithm had set in. Pedro, who called himself the Crazy Pedro, was obsessed with finding a stunt that would catapult them to the 300,000 subscriber mark. He wanted to be the next big thing, frequently telling his audience that he was ready to die trying to achieve his dreams. The stunt Pedro eventually devised was as simple as it was catastrophic. He intended to hold a thick, hardcover encyclopedia against his chest while Mona Lisa fired a gun at it from just a foot away. Pedro was convinced that the dense paper of the book would act as natural body armor, stopping the bullet dead. To prove his theory to a reluctant and pregnant Mona Lisa, he had performed a test fire on a separate book in the woods. Because that bullet had remained lodged in the paper, Pedro believed the laws of ballistics were on his side. But Pedro made a fatal error in his calculations. The weapon he chose for the video wasn't a standard handgun, it was a .50 caliber Desert Eagle, one of the most powerful semi-automatic pistols in existence. A .50 caliber round is designed for massive kinetic energy, capable of piercing through car doors and engine blocks. Against an 1.5-inch thick encyclopedia, it wasn't a contest. On the evening of June 26, 2 cameras were set up in their yard to capture the moment of truth from different angles. Their 3-year-old daughter was standing nearby, watching as her parents prepared for the ultimate viral clip. A chilling transcript later released by the court shows Mona Lisa pleading with Pedro to stop. "I can't do it, babe," she said, "I'm so scared." Pedro's response was a masterclass in the hubris we've seen throughout this video. "As long as you hit the book, you'll be fine. Come on." Mona Lisa pulled the trigger. The .50 caliber round didn't just hit the book, it obliterated it, passing through the paper with almost no resistance before striking Pedro in the chest. He collapsed instantly as the Crazy Pedro persona vanished, replaced by a horrific reality. Mona Lisa immediately called 911, screaming into the phone that they were doing a YouTube video and it went wrong. The footage from those 2 cameras was confiscated by the state and used as the primary evidence in a manslaughter case that saw Mona Lisa sentenced to 6 months in jail. The video remains a haunting artifact of the subscriber pursuit, a record of 2 people who loved each other, yet were so blinded by the promise of internet fame that they ignored the basic survival instincts of the human race. Pedro Ruiz didn't die because of a hidden mountain crevasse or a sudden gust of wind. He died because he believed that the digital world's rules of theatricality applied to the physical world's rules of ballistics. It is a sobering reminder that while you can edit a video, you cannot edit the path of a bullet. As we move toward our final and most high-profile case, the theme of the ultimate sacrifice reaches its peak. Because as we are about to see, the camera doesn't just record the end of a life, sometimes it records the end of an era. While the case of Pedro Ruiz was a tragedy born of a reckless desire to go viral, our 10th and final case brings us to a creator who had already found his fame. It is the most poignant story in this series, a narrative of a man who spent his life celebrating the sublime and the dangerous, only for the irony of his final act to echo across the internet as a haunting masterpiece of dark coincidence. Tor Eckhoff, known to over 1 million subscribers as Ape Tor, was a Norwegian legend. Unlike the polished, high-production influencers of Los Angeles, Ape Tor was raw, silent, and deeply eccentric. He was a 57-year-old factory worker who spent his weekends in the frozen wilderness of Norway, filming himself ice skating, diving into sub-zero water, and chugging vodka with a signature, guttural R. He was the internet's transcendentalist, a man who seemed completely impervious to the cold and the fear that governs most human lives. For 15 years, he had made a ritual of dancing on thin ice. In November 2021, Ape Tor uploaded a video that has since become one of the most famous pieces of accidental foreshadowing in digital history. Titled "I Am Not Dead, I Am 57 Today," the video was a celebration of his birthday. In it, he goes through his familiar, beloved rituals, soaking in a freezing outdoor tub, drinking vodka, and assuring his global community that he was still here, still healthy, and still thriving. It was a victory lap for a man who had survived cancer in 2018 and viewed every winter as a gift. But just 5 days after that video was posted, Ape Tor traveled to Jacob's Dam near the town of Kongsberg. He was alone, as he often was, with his camera set up to record his latest session of ice skating. To Ape Tor, the thin ice wasn't a threat, it was his medium. He had spent a decade learning how to fall through it and pull himself out, often treating the danger as a joke. But nature is a gambler that only needs to win once. As the camera ran, capturing the serene, white landscape of the Norwegian forest, the ice gave way. This time, the water was too deep, the temperature too shock-inducing, or the edge too slippery. Ape Tor, the man who had mastered the ice, found himself trapped beneath it. A lone witness heard his screams and called for help, but by the time rescue divers pulled his body from the freezing depths, he had been submerged for far too long. He passed away the following day in the hospital. The finality of Ape Tor's story is what makes it the definitive case of the creator's paradox. He died doing exactly what he loved, yet the irony of his last upload, telling the world he wasn't dead just days before his death, turned his life's work into a tragic poem. The camera didn't just record a death, it recorded the end of a man who had become a symbol of human resilience against the elements. As we look back at these 10 cases, a clear and disturbing pattern emerges. The camera is not a protective charm. It doesn't care about your subscribers, your intentions, or your past survival. From the heights of the Alps to the frozen lakes of Norway, these creators all shared one thing: they believed they were the directors of their own story. But in the end, they were just subjects of a reality that doesn't offer a take two. The pursuit of viral fame, the search for the perfect shot, and the pressure to keep performing are the new frontiers of human risk. And as these 10 stories prove, the screen you are looking at right now isn't just a window into other people's lives, it is a witness to the price they paid to be seen.